I just encourage you to think intentionally about how you're living so that you can live with more beauty and more joy, and that the things around you would be tools and you can live larger through it. Maybe even the things that you have, the way that you live with those things could be a part of your worship if you love God, or bring freedom in your life so that you can live larger even if you don't believe in God. Are you interested in being a minimalist or learning minimalism? Well, I want to share today about how I went from being a minimalist to living very normally and now living as an essentialist, as I like to think of it. Before I jump in and share a little bit about my story, I want to share a clip from a song that has really inspired me in this season of my life, particularly about living with intention and being very aware of the space that I create and what is in my space and how it affects me and the energy that it brings into my life. So let me just play that clip for you and just hear a sound bite or two of it, and then I'll jump in and share a bit of my story. I'll share a little bit more about that song a bit later. But as far as sharing a little bit about my story, it would be worth starting with the fact that in my early 20s, I lived as a minimalist, even into probably my early 30s. For close to 14 years, I lived by no stretch of the imagination as a minimalist. I truly backpacked all over North America and lived out of a backpack. Later, I upgraded a little bit and I carried 2 big military duffel bags that I'd gotten from my dad and packed most of my possessions in those and traveled with that. When I moved around, I could get them on Greyhound buses or on airplanes, and that was kind of my standard, was keeping my entire life packed into 2 bags that I could get on carry-ons and what I could take on a plane with me. By the time I was into my late 20s, I had finally gotten a vehicle. One summer, I lived out of that vehicle while I was doing guiding and outdoor work. And so most of my entire life, I could fit into one vehicle. And, you know, I lived large, living minimally. I traveled all over. I think by the time I was 28, I'd been to all 50 states, been to northern Mexico, spent a couple months deep in the Sonoran Desert there, and had traveled through most of Western Canada, west of Toronto, and up north, except for the NWT, the Northwest Territories. And so really had an incredible opportunity to travel. Lived in, I don't know how many states at that point, 4 different states and a couple provinces. And at many of those places I'd been to, I'd been around the country in every one of them, 50 states, but had been to multiple states and places multiple times, just had traveled a lot. When I ended up in Bend, Oregon around 30, those first few years, I lived in a small 1-bedroom apartment on the river and had it slightly furnished somewhat, beautifully, but very minimally, and just lived with intention in what I did. Well, when I got married, things got more complicated. As our lives get richer, they often become more complicated in beautiful ways. And so I had already started a business on my own, but when I got married, we decided to start 2 other businesses, a construction business for my husband and a food cart business, both of which required a lot of equipment. We got pregnant out of the gate, so we had a baby on the way, and we had our second one within 5 years. With babies and 3 businesses, our life was just full on warp speed, and we were very much in survival mode trying to get these businesses launched, and it took a lot of effort. And so we weren't living very intentionally with the possessions that we had. Finally, when our businesses were starting to crank, we were starting to really profit. Again, we were going so fast, we weren't really slowing down to live intentionally, and we made a big mistake and hadn't changed some things with our insurance. And we ended up having a devastating fire 3 days before Christmas when I was pregnant with our second child. and lost basically everything we owned and ended up having no insurance in that situation. I've detailed some of that amazing story later, but before I go into how that fire changed our thinking about living and brought me back to minimalism, but not in the way I had known before, this concept of essentialism, I want to play another clip from this song to spark this concept and why living intentionally is so powerful and beautiful.
Hello, clarity. Hello, wisdom. There is space for you. Hello, mercy and compassion. There is space for you.
I love those lines, hello clarity, hello wisdom, hello mercy and compassion. And I'm going to share, if you listen to the end, I'm going to share why this song is so profound and deep to me and why I've even shared these clips with you. But before I do that, I just want to come back to this. You know, we had this fire and basically we had to reset our lives. We were forced to be minimalists suddenly in a way that neither of us had been in years. And as we rebuilt our lives, you can catch some of this story in other videos I've done, but there was miracle after miracle, and God was our insurance, and we were given something like $25,000 to rebuild our lives. But as we rebuilt our lives, we had to really make some radical decisions, and we decided to live in an RV off-grid. We bought some land south of Bend, and initially we were going to do that track thinking we were going to just do what everyone else did and build a house and all this. But as we got into it, we realized that living minimally allowed us to live large. And we didn't want to take on a massive amount of debt. And we wanted to be really intentional with rebuilding our businesses in a way that we could travel more, because we got to experience that living in the RV. And so we started rethinking our lifestyle of doing business and what it meant to live intentionally. And so we started taking the winters off. And for years, we've taken 3 or more months off every year and traveled. And it sparked in us this other concept, because when we moved off grid and on this land, we were living in an RV. Even as we rebuilt our businesses, they required a lot of equipment. We had 2 food carts, an enclosed cargo trailer for my husband's construction business, and a dump trailer. We ended up buying 2 cargo containers and converting, well, one we used as like something we could lock up as a shed and lock tools and things like that in, and have for extra storage as needed. And then the other one we converted into more or less a little bit of a guest house and a studio that we could work out of and live in, or use, you know, like a second living space. And so living in an RV it was like going back to basics of like living out of a backpack. You have to be very intentional. Your wardrobe is stripped down. I mean, my closet was about this big that I could hang clothes in, and about this deep I could shove some stuff in the back. And I had a couple cubicles up in a couple doors above, and that was the extent of my wardrobe. And living, I mean, toiletries, I'd never been one to collect that. That's just not my thing as a woman. But, you know, when you have one toiletry bag and one little place for these things, you realize in ways that you probably haven't even allowed excess into your life. And what it forced me to do was, as we had 2 kids, we had 2 kids, 2 dogs, a husband, and me living in this RV. And what I realized quickly, especially living in it over an extended period, was that it's so easy to come home with things. You know, even as we got back on our feet and we were living a little bit more, we weren't on the line financially, and things were starting to go well, and we were starting to save. When we decided to stay in the RV and double down on saving and really leverage this experience, it was easy to still come home with things and for people to send you things and give you things. And what I realized was how much stuff comes into our life, and when you have nowhere to put it, how it just takes over your space. And it used to infuriate me. I felt like every week I had to declutter. Every week I had to go through things and just really decide, were we keeping this long term? If we were, then I needed to put it in storage for when we had a house at some point in our cargo trailer, or give it away or throw it away. Many of us don't realize you add 1 or 2 or 3 pounds every year. And when you do that for 10, 12, 15, 20 years, how overweight you can become. Unless you're living with a constant state of fitness, exercise, and diligence, watching what you're eating, being aware of regulating your physical life, it's easy to consume and overeat and pack on pounds. And in our RV, if we weren't careful, we were just packing on weight. We would implode from the inside out because of stuff. It really forced me into this mode in a short contained space. How do people become hoarders? How do people end up dying with sheds filled and garages filled and every room of their house filled? When you don't have to move and you're not forced to go things, you don't normally make that part of your life unless you're doing it seasonally or weekly or monthly. So it really provoked my husband and I to really start thinking about, well, I don't want to be a minimalist. First of all, I don't want to live with empty space around me. I love plants. I love books. I love art. I've lived as a minimalist. When I had nothing to give people that had nothing. When I lived out of my vehicle in my Jeep, what would I do if someone else's house burned down? What would I say? Come live in my Jeep with me? There would be no space. So the idea of living large is important to me. Living with abundance, using the things I have intentionally is really important to my husband and I. But we want to use things and not let things control our life. We determine how those things are used in an intentional way. And so, we have a house. You can see some of it behind me. We live small, even in our house. We probably live in 1,000 square feet. I don't even think it's 1,200 feet, 5 acres with almost no one around us. We live large in the sense that everything around us feeds our spirit. And we live small because we're not trying to take on the weight of mortgages or finances and things like that. We want to live with freedom. The whole point of this video and the whole point of what I want to convey is, minimalism is glamorous and it kind of has this sexy connotation, but I don't want to be a minimalist. I've been a minimalist in different seasons and it worked. Where I'm at with 2 kids, being married, and 3 businesses, it's not realistic. What's realistic is living with intention. Marie Kondo talks about the idea of everything around you should spark joy. I've heard it said that the things in your life should either be beautiful, memorable, or have function. And there should be a reason that they're in your life as far as a tool. My husband loves to cook. We can't be minimalist when it comes to the kitchen. He wants a chef's kitchen. He loves that. Thus, we have a food cart business. When it comes to books, I don't want to be a minimalist. I love books, but I do have to go back through my books and decide, do I need all these books? Are they serving a purpose? Are these ones I'm going to lend out and give? Are these resources I'm going to use, things I'm going to speak on and teach on or do trainings with? To me, my books symbolize the education I've spent years pursuing. I've read 4,000 to 5,000 books in my life. Books carry the weight of what I have pursued in wisdom. They represent so much to me. They're part of what I hope to give my kids, my legacy. Do I want to be a minimalist? No, I don't plan on throwing away my books. I hope to add to that collection, creating a greater library of beauty. I can't wait till the day I have a whole wall full of books with a rolling ladder. That's one of my dreams. I want to encourage you. It's not just live normally or be a minimalist. There's a spectrum, and I think it's important to recognize where on that spectrum you're going to thrive, that you're going to find joy. It might be having in less and less possessions so that you can travel more and you're not so weighted down. For others, maybe you've done that in one season, but you're in a place of being rooted. I love the idea of entertaining and having house parties. And, that's been years since we did that because when we had the RV, we weren't able to do that. And I really miss dinner parties. And that is one of the things I'm looking forward to in this season of our lives. I want to end sharing a final clip of this song. I want you to see an intensity of worship and someone thinking of worship as far as making space in their lives, like clearing out the clutter. How does that change how you live? If living is a type of worship, if you want joy in your life and you want to live with more joy and more life flowing through you, being weighed down by things is not going to help. And I have found this music elevating and I have played it as I've cleaned and gone through my house on a weekly basis. I'm saying bye to clutter, making space for the ability to think in my life. I'm making space for wisdom. I'm making space for compassion and mercy. I'm living with intention with my possessions as worship to God. For some, this might be sacrilegious, but others, you might never have seen anything like this. Perhaps it's something you're familiar with, but you've never heard this song. It might become one of your songs for the year, like me. I just encourage you to think intentionally about how you're living so that you can live with more beauty and more joy, and that the things around you would be tools and you can live larger through it. Maybe even the things that you have, the way that you live with those things could be a part of your worship if you love God, or bring freedom in your life so that you can live larger even if you don't believe in God. Thank you so much. It's been a joy to share this today. I'm just going to play this song to close it out. I hope you'll stick around to watch a little bit and just take it in.
Come in, invade. for you. There is space 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 for you. Bye bye clutter. Bye 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 bye. Bye bye clutter. Bye 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 bye. Bye bye clutter. Bye 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 bye. Bye bye. Hello, clarity. Whoa, there's so much space for you. I feel you entering my mind. There's space for you. I can feel you entering our hearts. There's space for you. I can feel you entering my soul. There's space for you. There's space for you. There is space for you. There is space for you. There is space for you. There's space. There is space for you. Hello, clarity. Hello, wisdom. There is space for you. Hello, mercy and compassion. There is space for you. Oh, come and take up residence. Jesus, Jesus, welcome in. Oh, come and take up residence. Jesus, Jesus, welcome in. Oh, Jesus, Jesus, welcome in. Oh, Jesus, Jesus.